Hi everyone, my name is Francisco Gomez. I'm an assistant professor and dry bean breeder here at Michigan State University. I'd like to welcome everyone for the dry bean breeding and virtual field day tour. Before I begin, I'd like to thank everyone, all the organizers that organized this virtual event. So the Michigan State Dry Bean Breeding Program is a variety development breeding program. Our goal is to develop improved varieties of dry beans for 10 commercial market classes of dry beans to serve Michigan growers, Michigan producers, as well as the dry bean industry here in Michigan. Our primary focus is to develop high-yielding varieties with disease resistance, stress resilience, as well as improved canning quality for 10 commercial market classes of dry bean for production here in Michigan. So today I'm actually standing here in Saginaw Valley Research and Extension Center, where we do the bulk of our dry bean breeding program. Our second location is located in Montcalm Research Center, where primarily in that location we focus mostly on kidney beans. So one of the advantages of having these two locations for having our dry bean nurseries is that we can continuously make selections on our varieties and continuously adapt these varieties to the changing climate here in Michigan. And they're adapted to specific target environments for dry bean production here in Michigan. So the Michigan State Dry Bean Breeding Program is also conducting yield trials for all 10 market classes of dry bean in these two locations. So we're also participating in evaluating national trials, including the Dry Bean Cooperative Nursery, the Midwestern Regional Performance Nursery, the National Drought Nursery, as well as the National Sclerotinia Nursery. So one of these advantages of having these nurseries and participating in evaluating these nurseries is that these are collaborative efforts we have with other dry bean breeding programs in the U.S. And one of the advantages is that we can actually evaluate lines from our colleagues from other universities and look at them under Michigan environments. As well as this goes both ways, so they can evaluate our varieties in other environments across the U.S. and see how well they perform in other environments across the U.S. Another advantage is that we can actually evaluate lines from our collaborators, and we can look at these lines and we can consider them as using for our parental in our breeding program as well. So the Michigan State Dry Bean Breeding Program, with the efforts of my predecessor, Dr. Jim Kelly, recently released 4 varieties of dry bean. These varieties include a black bean called Adams, a pinto bean called CHARRO, a great northern bean called EIGER, and a yellow bean called YELLOWSTONE. While these varieties that I just mentioned have recently been released from our breeding pipeline, they're currently under seed production out west. I would like to share some of their attributes with you. For the black bean Adams, it is a good yielder and significantly out-yielded all other black bean varieties including Zenith, Zorro, Black Bear, and Eclipse. It yielded 3,501 kilograms per hectare across 27 locations. It is resistant to races 73 and 109 of anthracnose. It looks similar to Zorro in appearance and black color retention following canning. And it was named in honor of Dr. Wayne Adams for his work in bean archetype and establishing the black bean breeding program here at Michigan State University. The picture on my top right is a picture of Dr. Wayne Adams. And the picture on my left here in the field is actually a picture of Adams currently under seed production in Idaho. Our pinto bean CHARRO is a good yielder and yielded 3,230 kilograms per hectare across 17 locations in mid-Michigan. It has erect architecture to avoid white mold. It has seed size equivalent to other pinto bean varieties, excellent dry down and maturity without the need of any harvest aids. It also has improved canning quality over other pinto varieties, and a good level of lodging resistance. The Great Northern EIGER yielded 3,166 kilograms per hectare across 15 locations in mid-Michigan, and it has a good level of lodging resistance with architectural avoidance to white mold. Seed size equivalent to other Great Northern varieties and excellent dry down and maturity without the need of any harvest aids as well. It also has canning quality equivalent to other Great Northern varieties. Yellowstone is a yellow market class bean. It is a good yielder for its market class and yielded 2,902 kilograms per hectare across 4 years, uniform dry down and maturity. It has upright bush habit with improved level of lodging resistance over current varieties and increased tolerance to white mold. It has superior yellow seed coat color and maturity compared to other bean varieties, and canning quality equivalent to other yellow varieties. So one of the trials I wanted to show you is this trial I'm standing here in front of you today. This is our black bean advanced yield trial. So while this trial is not unique to our breeding program, we have this routinely every year. This type of trial was started about a couple of years back with my predecessor, Dr. Jim Kelly. The goal was to identify yield differential between varieties grown under no nitrogen and nitrogen conditions. So this one I'm standing here right now is a trial where we actually applied nitrogen fertilizer. So dry bean actually takes nitrogen from three sources. The first one is from the residual nitrogen in the soil. The second one is from added nitrogen. And the third is through symbiotic nitrogen fixation. Now dry bean, like other legumes, can actually fix nitrogen through symbiotic nitrogen fixation. However, there are several factors that actually affect symbiotic nitrogen fixation. And one of these factors can be drought or adding too much nitrogen. So one way we actually determine symbiotic nitrogen fixation in this field, there are many ways to actually measure symbiotic nitrogen fixation, but one of the ways we use it in this trial is actually putting this check in our field, and this check is a R99, is a mutant that actually does not nodulate. So basically it allows us to give us a measurement of residual nitrogen in the soil. So the yield differential between these two lines, subtracting the residual nitrogen in the soil, anything else will be due to symbiotic nitrogen fixation on these varieties. So one of the reasons that motivated us to pursue this study this year were the results we found in the past under these types of trials and conditions. We actually identified black bean lines that have equivalent and higher yield potential under low nitrogen conditions, as you can see in this graph. From a breeding perspective, this suggests that through recurrent selection, it would be possible to reduce the need for nitrogen fertilizer in Michigan dry bean production. And this is important for three reasons. First reason is we can develop varieties that perform well under low nitrogen soils, therefore reduce the need for added nitrogen fertilizer, thus reducing the nitrogen runoff, particularly important here in the Great Lakes area region. Second reason is that we can develop varieties that were well suited for both conventional and organic production. And the third reason is that we can reduce the incidence of white mold, increase when we add nitrogen fertilizer, and increase biomass. Because we know that adding nitrogen fertilizer while increasing biomass does not necessarily increase yield. So as plant breeders, we're always thinking about how to increase the efficiency of throughput. So in the breeding program, we routinely collect data, phenotypic data across our growing season. This can be agronomic data as well as disease data. And we're always thinking about how we can apply new tools to our breeding program to make it more efficient. So one of these tools that we're actually exploring in the breeding program this season is actually looking at using unmanned aerial systems or drones. What we're going to be doing this season is basically comparing our field notes, our agronomic as well as other notes that we collect routinely, and compare it and ask ourselves a question. Can the UAV or the drone collect more efficient data than us? This would allow us to actually continue not only to collect more efficient data, but collect longitudinal data across our growing season and help us collect more data on as well as larger populations.